Good evening. Welcome to the masterclass. Life is a series of moments. We have been reading together The Courage to be Disliked by Fumitake Koga and Ichiro Kishimi. What we realize that yes, there are moments in life when you think back, there are other moments when you think ahead. But what lies ahead and what is not there doesn't make your present moment. And sometimes when the present moment happens and you see disruptive behavior, you see inconsequential action, it happens for a reason. Why? Because possibly the individual is frustrated for some reason, or the individual has not had good experience on an interpersonal relationship. And on a presumptive reaction, the person acts in a particular way. So last time when we were there, we saw how this happens. We saw a part on courage to be disliked on living in the present moment. That was the discussion. We talked about the kinetic model, the here and now, and it is no inherent purpose, the guiding star for the contribution to others. That's what we read. We read about personal responsibility and courage to start, regardless of others' cooperation. So that disappointment will not happen when you have the courage to start, regardless of others' cooperation. We even did a little review of what we do at Good Schools Alliance simply because we were heading for the governing council meeting. And I'm delighted to share with you that we finally have a governing council in place, a wonderful governing body. We have a constitution in place. And I think we are on a stronger footing today. So that's a recap of the last week, thinking of the last session. We have come to the afterword of the book today. In the afterword of the book, we are going to be focusing on how we transit to a new book, which is The Courage to be Happy. So before we move into The Courage to be Happy, let's go and review the afterword of this particular book. In life, there are encounters in which a book one happens to pick up one day ends up completely altering one's landscape the following morning. And I'm sure this one book will be of that very mojo to you. It's a life changing book because if you have the courage to be disliked, you've just got everything in life to make you stronger. Anything anyone wants to share, you want to carry away from the book before I go further? Gurdeep, you want to share? You carried away something from this book?
Yeah, a lot many things. I would say the relationships, he talked about relationships that all like problems are interrelationship problems, and more emphasis should be given on building horizontal relationship rather than vertical. So this I really want to incorporate in my professional as well as personal life. It's not easy, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned personal life because when you go home today, we have to apply it there also. There's no hierarchy home. And the world today is grappling with how to remove the hierarchy in any structure, whether it's in home or in corporate life. Hierarchy sometimes may be required, but they become an impediment to learning. And it's very tough to become horizontal every time. We are always told to look up, look up.
Yes.
This is the way we are brought up. So when that happens, obviously we can't look down sometimes and see, okay, there is something down there and there's something up there. I better be in the middle so that I can catch both up and down. So this is the challenge of life. You so beautifully said. Is there anyone we need to admit? Let me just see. I think I've got everyone. Thank you, Akanksha. Good to see you here. Good to see you here, Harshita. Harshita is, by the way, with us in Dehradun. She joined us this week for the governing council meeting. Then she went down and volunteered at the Jabaz Kishori project, currently on at the Arthur Foot Academy. She met Minakshi there. So she is our fellow, and we are so happy to have her all the way from Udaipur in Dehradun for this week. Thank you, Harshita. As we go along, we will now read the afterword. It was the winter of 1999, and I was a youth in my 20s when I had the great fortune of encountering such a book at a bookshop in Ikebukuro. This was Ichiro Kishimi's Adora Shringraki Nyamu Introduction to Adlerian Psychology. Here was a form of thought, profound in every way, yet conveyed in simple language. Ancient Greek philosophers, the Adlerian psychology, the Kishimi conveys it to us, reveals Adler as a thinker, a philosopher, whose work went far beyond the confines of clinical psychology. For instance, the statement, it is only in social context that a person becomes an individual. I think this is a fantastic takeaway. Is positively Hegelian in his laying emphasis on subjective interpretation over objective truth. He echoes Nietzsche's worldview and ideas recalling the phenomenology of Husserl and Heidegger are in abundance. Adlerian psychology, which draws inspiration from these philosophical insights to proclaim all problems are interpersonal relationship problems. People can change and be happy from this moment onward. And the problem is not one of ability but of courage. Was to utterly change the worldview of this rather confused youth. So, youth, were you so confused?
No, 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 I'm not confused. Now I'm clear.
Nevertheless, there was almost no one around me who had heard of Adlerian psychology. I'm sure none of us had also heard of Adlerian psychology. Eventually, it occurred to me that I would like to make a book someday with Kishimi that would be a definitive edition of Adlerian psychology, Kishimi Adler Studies. And I contacted one editor after another and waited impatiently for the opportunity to arise. It was in March 2010 that I was at last able to meet with Kishimi, who lives in Kyoto. More than 10 years had passed since my first reading of Introduction to Adlerian Psychology. When Kishimi said to me, then Socrates' thought was conveyed by Plato. I would like to be Plato for Adler. Without a second thought, I answered, then I will be Plato for you, Mr. Kishimi. And that is how this book was conceived. One aspect of Adler's simple and universal ideas is that there are times when we may seem to be stating the obvious, while at others he is likely to be regarded as espousing utterly unrealizable idealistic theories, according to this book. In hopes of focusing on any doubts that might be harbored by the reader, I have adopted a format of a dialogue between a philosopher and a young man. And Gurdeep has done a great job as the young man. Gurdeep, beautiful, your name is Gurdeep. So, anyway, it'll be Gurdeep, as simple as that. So, you can go away either way. Thank you for the philosophy of Sikhism where names are gender agnostic. It's so beautiful. So, you could have read as a young man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Applying
you.
this narrative, it is not a simple thing to make the ideas of Adler's one's own and put them into practice. There are points that make one want to rebel, statements that are difficult to accept, and proposals that one may struggle to grasp. But the ideas of Adler have the power to completely change a person's life, just like they did for me over a decade ago. Then it is only a question of having the courage to take a step forward. In closing, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Ishiro Kishimi, who never treated me as a disciple, even though I was much younger than he, but met me forthrightly as a friend, to the editor Yoshifumi Kakiochi for his steadfast and unstinting support at every step of the way, and last but not the least, to the readers of the book. Thank you so much, Fumitake Koga. So Fumitake acted the youth in the book, So Gurdeep's name was Fumitake in the book. So thank you, Fumitake. I read your part. Why? Because I was conceptualizing the book. More than half a century has passed since the death of Adler, and the Times still cannot catch up with the freshness of his ideas. Though compared with Freud and Jung, the name Adler is little known in Japan today. Adler's teachings are said to be a communal query that anyone who can excavate something from. That's the beauty. And though the name often goes unmentioned, the influence of his teachings have spread far and wide. I had been studying philosophy ever since my late teens, and it was around the time my child was born, when I was in my early 30s, that I first encountered Adlerian psychology, eudaimonic theory, which investigates the question, what is happiness, is one of the central themes of the Western philosophy. I had sometimes many years pondering this question when I attended the lecture where I first learned of Adlerian psychology. On hearing the lecturer declare from his podium, those who have listened to my talk today will be able to change and be happy from this moment onward. I felt repulsed. But at the same time, it dawned on me that I'd never thought deeply about how I myself can find happiness. And with the notion that finding happiness itself was perhaps easier than I'd imagined, I took an interest in Adlerian psychology. In this way, I came to study Adlerian psychology side by side with philosophy. I soon realized, however, that I could not stand them separately as two distinct fields. For instance, the idea of teleology, far from being something that appeared suddenly in Adler's time, is present in the philosophy of Plato and Aristotle. It became clear to me that Adlerian psychology was a way of thinking and lay in the same vein as Greek philosophy. Moreover, I noticed that the dialogue that Socrates engaged in with youth, which Plato recorded in writing for posterity, could be said to correspond very closely to the counseling practice today. Though my people think of philosophy as something difficult to understand, Plato's dialogues do not contain any specialized language. My question to the people present here: how has been your experience on reading this book on philosophy and psychology? Do you think you've tried to understand the subject? Anyone? Have you been trying to understand the subject? Gurdeep, I got the book on the screen now. Yeah? Okay. So, anyone wants to answer the question that do you feel philosophy and psychology? Have you been able to understand what the two subjects mean, or have you been able to differentiate between philosophy and psychology reading this book?
See, those subjects might be different, but both are about understanding humans. Okay. So obviously, it's not so easy to separate two.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's very difficult to separate psychology and philosophy. And I will go a step further. When we stack books, we end up putting religion also in the same pile. So philosophy, religion, psychology all end up in the same stack when we keep them in our bookshelves.
I think
Because
all are interconnected, and all the books related to philosophy, psychology, religion are talking about life, like how to live life fully and freely.
yes, absolutely. There was a session today at Learning Forward Saturday on life lessons, and they say that you learn from life lessons. You don't learn from classrooms. And when you take life lessons to classrooms, that's where the wisdom grows and develops, which I thought was a very powerful thing they are doing. It happens on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Today's video and post is there in the blog. Have a look at it, happyteacher.in. So let's go on. It is strange that philosophy should be something that is discussed using words understood only by specialists. Because in its original meaning, philosophy refers not to wisdom itself, but to love of wisdom. Very interesting. Philosophy refers to the love of wisdom, and it is very process of learning that one does not know and arriving at wisdom that is important. Whether or not one attains wisdom in the end is not an issue. A person reading Plato's dialogue today may be surprised to find that the dialogue concerning courage, for instance, ends without arriving at any conclusion. The youths engaged in dialogue with Socrates never agree with what he says at the outset. They refute his statements thoroughly. This book is continuing in the tradition of philosophy since Socrates, and that is why it follows the format of a dialogue between a philosopher and a youth. Upon learning of Adlerian psychology, which is another philosophy, I became dissatisfied with the way of the living of the researcher who only reads and interprets the writings of his predecessors. I wanted to engage in dialogues in the way that Socrates did, and eventually I began to practice counseling as psychiatry clinics and other venues. In doing so, I met many youths. All these youths wanted to live sincerely. Gurdeep, you'd like to read?
I'll read.
Yeah.
So all of these youths wanted to live sincerely, but many of them were people who had been told by worldly, jaded elders to be more realistic and were on the verge of giving up on their dreams. People who had been through arduous experiences of being entangled in interpersonal relationships that were complicated precisely because they were pure. Wanting to live sincerely is an important thing, but it is not enough on its own. Adler tells us that all problems are interpersonal relationship problems, but if one doesn't know how to build good interpersonal relationships, one may end up trying to satisfy other people's expectations. And unable to communicate out of fear of hurting other people, even when one has something to assert, one may end up abandoning what one really wants to do. While people may certainly be popular among those they know, and not many people will dislike them perhaps, they'll end up being incapable of living their own lives. To a young person like the youth in this book, who has many problems and has already had a harsh awakening to reality, the views put forward by this philosopher that this world is a simple place and that anyone can be happy from this day onward may come as a surprise. My psychology is for all people, says Adler, and dispensing with specialized language, much as Plato did, he shows us specific steps for improving our interpersonal relationships. If Adler's way of thinking is hard to accept, it is because it is a compilation of antitheses to normal social thinking. And because to understand it, one must put into practice in everyday life. Though his words are not difficult, there may be a sense of difficulty like that of imagining the blazing heat of summer in the dead of winter. But I hope that the reader will be able to grasp keys here to solving their interpersonal relationship problems. The day Fumitake Koga, my collaborator and writer for this book, first visited my study, he said, "I'll be a Plato for you, Mr. Kishimi." Today, the reason we can learn about the philosophy of Socrates, who left no unknown writings, is that Plato took down his dialogues in written form. But Plato didn't simply record what Socrates said. It is thanks to Plato's correct understanding of his words that Socrates' teachings are still conveyed today. It is thanks to the exceptional powers of understanding of Koga, who persisted in carrying out repeated dialogues with me over a period of several years, that this book has seen the light of day. Both Koga and I often made visits to our teachers in our university days, and the youth in this book could be either one of us. But more than anyone, he is you who picked up this book. It is my sincere hope that while your doubts may linger, I'll be able to support your resolution in all manner of life situations through this dialogue with the philosopher. Ichiro Kishimi.
Thank you. So I'm sure you put together that Ichiro is the philosopher and Koga is the youth.
Youth.
Okay. Anyone who wants to tell us what is your biggest, what inspired you in this book the most? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
According to,
Yeah, go ahead.
according to me, sir, that the one thing which inspired me the most is everything depends on us. Matlab, our happiness, whatever we are doing, it's not the past, it's not the present, it's us who make our choices, who make our own living. It's nobody else. We have, every time we blame on others, on the past, and what has happened to us, but everything depends upon us, how we think and how we move further.
Yeah, brilliantly said, Akanksha. I like saying a simple sentence, figment of your imagination. Figment of your imagination. You'll find it in someone's writing somewhere. There's also a dialogue. It says this is a figment of your imagination. So what figment means? It's a thought which is possibly not helping you understand your own self. When you imagine so deeply, and life, believe me, is 90% or more imagination. It doesn't exist that way. And that's the beauty of the human mind. It imagines more, so much more, that the brain becomes so swollen and enlarged that sometimes it becomes useless. And that's the beauty of the human brain. It just imagines so much. And what you said correctly, a lot of these things which make us judgmental, which cloud our understanding. So it's important. Of late, I've been reading a lot about Buddhism, and I've been focusing on one work, Old Path and White Clouds. It's a very elaborate work. It's 600-page book. I'm on the last portion of it, which is the third book, and there are three books in one book. So I'm on book three at the moment. And I took away something very, very simple from that book, that everything is living. There's no living and non-living. That was the first thing. And with that sincerity, if you wish for someone, that's where you will learn from everything. So when you talk of horizontal learning, you actually learn from every moment, every object, every sight, every sound. They are all your teachers. And that's the beauty. So if you look at the core tenements of Buddhism, it's ahimsa. So they won't even dig the ground that you'll end up taking out an insect. They're that concerned about the soil. They say, don't hurt the soil also. Walk on it in such a way gently so that you know you're walking and the soil does not feel the pressure of your feet. Imagine walking like that. It's like walking in the air. That's how far it goes. And if you see all that in correlation to what this book says, and if you see the dialogue between Socrates and Plato, the question and answer form, it's essentially this philosophy of life that we are too presumptive. And only when we can overcome these presumptions can we find the better self. Over to you, Kushi. Kushi, you wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. So, as we have completed this book, and I've realized that like all the chapters, I've learned something from like all of them. But like there has been many things like that have stuck in my mind, and when I'm thinking about this book in the bus while going or anytime, so they just come to my mind, and I'm like, yeah, like that's the point of reading the book. Those things are like live like you're dancing. That chapter, it was like very kind, I guess I would say, very a chapter that has stuck in my mind that I have enjoyed a lot. Like I could connect with with that chapter more. And yes, of before this book, I always used to think that all the people around me are like very nice and all. Like whenever I used to go somewhere or something like that, and then after reading the whole book, then I realized that all are my comrades, Yeah, and there are a lot of things that will just come to my mind while reading another master classes. So I'll tell you then too.
Why don't you make a reflection, Kushi, on reading this book? We may want to post that. Anyone is most welcome. And if you look at the screen now, this is the last session. You'll be surprised. This session has been played over 5,500 times, 5,400 times. The present moment is this video was exceptionally well liked. You have so many people who read it, so which means that what you and us are doing in this is making a difference to someone's thought, someone's life. So please keep participating. And yes, the resource is definitely there for you. We've built a very interesting resource, which is the YouTube channel, which comes out. The YouTube channel today has over 7,500 subscribers, 7.32. It is increasing. We have 571 videos. And like I say, sometimes we ended up creating something we never started to think of. We have perhaps create a top-notch learning resource which doesn't exist. Nothing like this exists as far as I'm concerned in our part of the country or in our part of the world, if I may want to say it even loudly. So I'm sure what you find here, and like Kushi said, that pure joy of learning you will find. And I'm glad you people have understood the meaning of joy of giving, that you give your time, you give your heart, you give your soul, you come here. And that's what makes our sessions most interesting. So that's the library. It's been recast beautifully. It's got playlists, so you can replay the entire masterclass in a series. For example, you can pick up the masterclass and play all of them in a series. So you can play the full playlist, one chapter after the other. You can play Learning Forward Saturday. You can play any of the sessions which have gone by. So they are all beautifully organized in playlists. So go have a look at the channel. It's a very nice resource. And I'm sure it'll help you reflect. It'll help you think. It'll help you go back. Now, in addition to this, what I wanted to go back to once again was the Teachers Academy blog. So this is where you will find a lot of reading, a lot of notes. So the proud moment discussion video which you were seeing, that what happened in the blog, you have it's slightly different from show notes of the YouTube. So YouTube show notes are different from the masterclass notes which come on the Teachers Academy. The Teachers Academy masterclass notes are very objective, while the notes are more, I would say, summative on the YouTube channel. So this is more formative. So have a look at it, go back to it. And yes, we are happy that we have such AI technology that we can capture all these moments for you. And I'm sure you can feel free to use them. We are creating this open source for everyone in school to use. I go back to the last page of the book. In all fairness, we have done justice to the book, I think. If you were inspired by this book, why not read the follow up and discover the secret to happiness? Have we got the book? Have some of us got the book?
Yes, I have got the book,
Yes.
sir.
So I'm glad you got the book, and I think it's important that we continue reading the book. I think it's a very interesting dialogue and a very interesting space which we have now reached. It will be worth a while to read, and in case you want more teachers and colleagues to join to improve your horizontal learning, this may be a good time to join us and start. So I've added the detail of the book. It is already there anyway. I've added that in your chat. There isn't a bookmark to share today. Why? Because we don't have anything in the bookmark. Let's just flip over the last few pages and the end notes of the book today and see how the book ends. So this is an author's note. So this is the author's note. It's about, though he stands beside Freud and Jung as one of the most important figures in the world of psychology, Alfred Adler has for many years a forgotten giant, using traditional format found in Greek philosophy of a dialogue between the youth and the philosopher. Book provides an introduction to Adler's thoughts. Characters appears in the book engaged in a discussion. So what we look at it this way, that there is pessimistic youth who is brought to optimistic life. And that is why this is very important. The courage to be disliked, the youth guided the philosopher to the true meaning of his assertion based on Adler's ideas that people can change, and not only that, they can find happiness. The philosopher offered the following statement in response: there is no such thing as internal problem. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. One must not be afraid of being disliked. Freedom of being disliked by other people. It isn't that you lack competence, you just lack the courage. Neither the past nor the future exist. There is only one here and now. At this point, one must say that you should have the courage to speak yourself. And that only happens when you're true to yourself. And that's the message you should take away from this book. You have to be true to yourself. So often we don't speak, or we want to be compliant, or we don't have the courage to rebel, if I may use that word in a very abstract manner. So that's the kind of courage you need to stand up on your feet and say, okay, this is it. The youth rebelled against this stream of radical statements again and again. On encountering Adler's idea of community feeling, however, he came to accept the philosopher's words and resolved to change himself. That's the beauty. The setting of this volume is 3 years later. The youth has become a teacher, and the intention of putting Adler's ideas into practice calls on the philosopher once more. Adlerian psychology is nothing but a bunch of empty theories. You are trying to tempt and corrupt young people with Adler's ideas. I have got to break away from such dangerous ideas. So that's how the youth really started. In what way should we walk the path to happiness revealed in the preceding volumes? Is Adler's thought, which sounds like pure idealism, really practical philosophy? And what is the biggest choice in life that Adler arrived at? This is the conclusion of a two-part work comprising the essence of Alfred Adler and his psychology of courage. Please ascertain for yourself, together with the youth who doubted and revolted with Adler, and the true shape of the courage we need. So here are some references. Here are some reads. Why don't you read this, Gurdeep?
It should have been a more light-hearted and friendly visit. I hope you will not mind if at some point I visit you here again. Yes, as an irreplaceable friend, and I won't be saying anything more about taking apart your arguments. Indeed, the youth had blurted out such words on his departure that day. Now, however, 3 years had gone by, and he had arrived at this man's study with completely different intentions. The youth was trembling with the gravity of what he was about to confess, and he felt at a loss as to where to begin.
Well, can you tell me what is going on?
You are asking why I have come to visit this study again. Well, unfortunately, I'm not here just to hang out and renew an old friendship. I'm sure you are busy, and my situation too is that I have little time for such things. So naturally, there is a pressing issue that has brought me here again.
Yes, of course, it would seem so.
I have thought things over, I have worried, and obsessed over it all more than is necessary, and thought it all completely through. In doing so, I arrived at a very serious resolution and decided to come here to convey it to you. I know you have much to do, so please give me your time for just this one evening, because this will probably be my final visit.
What happened?
Haven't you figured it out? It's the problem I have been suffering over for so long. Do I give up on Adler or not?
Ah, I see.
I'll get right to the point. Adler's ideas are quackery, utter quackery. Actually, I have to go further and say that they are dangerous, even harmful ideas. While you yourself are certainly free to choose what you wish to adhere to, if possible, I would like to get you to be quiet about it for once and for all. I have resolved to make this my final visit tonight, as I have said, in the knowledge that I had to give up on Adler completely, in your presence and with this feeling in my heart.
So, was there some event that triggered this?
I'll talk this through calmly and in an orderly fashion. First, do you recall that final day 3 years ago when I last saw you?
Of course I do. It was a winter day with glistening snow all around.
Yes, it was. The night sky was a beautiful blue, and there was a full moon. Under the influence of Adler's ideas, that day I took a great step forward. I quit my job at the university library and found a teaching position at my old middle school. I thought I would like to put into practice a kind of education that was based on Adler's ideas and bring it to as many children as possible.
Isn't that a wonderful decision?
Sure, I was burning with idealism then. I simply couldn't keep such wonderful, world changing ideas all to myself. I had to get more people to understand them. But whom? I could arrive at only one conclusion. The adults who are no longer pure and unsoiled aren't the ones who need to know about Adler. It's by bringing his thoughts to the children who will build a new generation that his ideas will continue to evolve. That was the mission I had been assigned. The fire inside me was burning so bright, I might well have burnt myself.
I see. You can speak of this only in the past tense.
That's right. It's totally history now. But please don't misunderstand me. I haven't lost hope in my students, and neither have I lost hope or given up with regard to education itself. It's just that I have lost hope in Adler, which is to say, I have lost hope in you.
Why is that?
Well, that's something for you to contemplate and ask yourself. Adler's ideas have no use in actual society and are nothing more than abstract, empty theories. Especially that education principle that states one must not praise and one must not rebuke. And just so you know, I have followed it faithfully. I didn't praise and I didn't rebuke anyone either. I didn't give praise for perfect scores on tests or for a thorough job cleaning up. I didn't rebuke anyone for forgetting to do their homework or for being noisy in class. What do you think happened as a result of this?
You got an unruly classroom.
Completely. But when I think back on it all now, that was only natural. It was my fault for getting taken in by such cheap quackery.
So, what did you do about it?
Needless to say, for the students who were doing bad things, I chose the path of stern rebuke. I know you're probably going to make light of that and tell me that it was a foolish solution. But look, I'm not a person who busies himself with philosophy and gets lost in daydreams. I'm an educator who lives and who handles real on the ground situations and looks after students' lives and destinies. Because the reality right in front of us never waits. It's moving constantly from moment to moment. You can't just sit back and do nothing.
How effective is it?
Naturally, if I rebuke them any further, it doesn't do any good. Because they disparage me now, I'm just a softy to them. Honestly, there are even times when I envy the teachers of ages past when physical punishment was permitted and even standard.
It is not an easy situation.
True, just so there isn't any misunderstanding, I should add that I am not letting my emotions take over or getting angry. I'm only rebuking in a rational manner as a last resort for the purposes of education. I guess you could say I'm prescribing an antibiotic medicine called reprimand.
And then you felt you wanted to give up on Adler?
Well, I mentioned that just to give you a clear example. Adler's ideas are certainly wonderful. They shake up your value system and make you feel like the cloudy skies over your head are clearing up, like your life has changed. They would seem to be beyond reproach, a universal truth, even. But the fact of the matter is that the only place they hold water is right here in this study. Once you throw open the door and dive into the actual world, Adler's ideas are just too naive. The arguments they put forward are quite impractical and nothing but empty idealism. You have just been fabricating a world that suits your purposes here in this room and losing yourself in daydreams. You don't know a thing about the real world and the swarming masses of people who live in it.
Maybe we are doing this here. We have to get the storming masses to read. I see. And then,
An education in which one neither praises nor rebukes. An education that espouses autonomy and leaves students to fend for themselves. That's nothing other than a renunciation of one's professional duties as an educator. From now on, I'm going to face the children in a way that is very different from Adler's. I don't care if it is right or not, because I have no other choice. I'll praise and I'll rebuke. And naturally, I'll have to mete out harsh punishment as well.
just to confirm, you're not going to quit working as an educator, are you?
Of course not. I'll never give up on the path of being an educator because it is the path I have chosen. It is not an occupation, but a way of living.
It is most reassuring to hear that.
So, you think this is just somebody else's problem? If I'm going to continue as an educator, I have got to give up on Adler right here and now. If I don't, I'll be renouncing my responsibilities as an educator and abandoning my students.
This is the probable blade. Carry on.
This is the proverbial blade to your throat. Well, what's your response?
First, allow me to make a correction. You used the word truth earlier, but I am not presenting Adler as an absolute immutable truth. One might say that what I'm doing is giving a prescription for eyeglass lenses. I believe there are many people whose fields of vision have been broadened as a result of these lenses. On the other hand, there are probably those who say their vision has become even cloudier than before. I do not consider trying to force these lenses of Adler on such people.
Oh, so you run away from them?
No, let's look at it this way. No other form of thought is as easy to get wrong and as hard to get right as Adlerian psychology. The majority of those who say, I know Adler misunderstood his teachings, they do not possess the courage to approach a true understanding, and they do not try to look directly at the landscape that spreads out beyond this way of thought.
People misunderstand Adler.
That's right. If someone comes into contact with Adler's ideas, is immediately moved very deeply and says, life is easier now, that person is grossly misunderstood Adler. Because when one truly understands what Adler is demanding of us, one is likely to be shocked by the severity.
So you are saying that I too misunderstand Adler?
Yes, from everything you have been telling me, it would seem so. You are certainly not alone in this. However, there are many Adlerians, practitioners of Adlerian psychology, who misunderstand them at the outset and then climb stairway of understanding. It would seem that you haven't actually found the stairway that you should climb yet. I didn't find it right way either when I was young.
Uh, you had a period when you were lost too?
Yes, I did.
Then I want you to teach me. Where is this stairway to understanding or whatever it is? What do you mean by stairway anyway? Where did you find it?
I was fortunate because I was a house husband in the midst of raising a young child when I came to know Adler.
What do you mean?
Through my child, I learned Adler, and together with my child, I was able to practice and thus deepen my understanding and obtain positive proof of Adler.
So that's what I'm asking you to tell me. What did you learn? And what is this positive proof you obtained?
In a word, it was love.
What did you say?
You don't really need me to say it again, do you?
Yeah, what a laugh. Love, the thing that there is no need to speak of. You are saying that if I want to know the real Adler, I have to know about love?
You can laugh at this word, do not yet understand. The love Adler speaks of is the harshest and most courage testing task of all.
Oh, please. You are just going to recite some preachy talk about neighborly love. I don't want to hear it.
Would you like to hear more about love next time? Let's add a bookmark. I think we should
Okay.
continue with this because it will require some deep thought. And in addition, it will give us time because not many of us have got the book as yet. It'll give us time to get the copy of the book. If we do this yet once more, what do you say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so let's do that. I'll add the bookmark here so people know that we are still on this book. I've added the book and I've added the bookmark. Now, when we meet next time, it will be 31st, right? So we will in this month. So here we go, 31st January 2026. The bookmark is for you, and we hope you can join us. Please join us as we open up with the courage to be happy. Kindly post your thoughts in the chat and encourage others to reflect. Anyone wants to say anything at closing? Closing bell?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so recently my library teacher approached me and she said that, have you read the My Good School book? And I was like, yeah, I've read that earlier only. And she was like, could you just make a reflection of it? I was like, sure. And I said, for what? She was like, we have the newsletter for the school every month. So she was like, for that. And I was like, okay, I'll be happy to make. And I made that and I'll share it in, in the group also. And then
Lovely.
she also
Yeah.
said that, book are you reading right now? So I said, The Courage to be Disliked. And she said that, why don't we make a PPT of it and share that with all the grade 8 students, all the sections. So we'll be doing that soon.
Brilliant. You'll get a lot of content from happyteacher.in when you're making your PPT. It's very simple. What you can do is we have almost a chapter by chapter 45-minute recording. The takeaways you can pick up from the blog. It'll help you make your presentation. The key takeaways we always give out in the post. You will get things from there to make your presentation. Gurdeep, can you help her with the presentation in some way with some ideas?
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. I'll connect with you, Khushi.
Kushi, just ask anyone to help you. It's a very good thing that you are doing it, and we all be happy to help. All of us, please help Kushi make the presentation. I think that's why we are here, and that's the takeaway from the horizontal learning class.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, someone knocking on my door. God bless you all. Have a great evening, and yes, have the courage to be disliked.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.